Lamo mamka vizuri na uko tayari kwa kujumuika na sisi kwa mazungumzo ya leo. I hope you're ready, and if you can happen, you're ready to have this discussion with us this morning. Is usually the Siasa Wednesday, but now we have a mix of Siasa and Uchumi, because now it looks like every other politician is taking economics into politics and also politics into economics. So you try to, they used to say, how do you separate sand from salt, or is it salt from sand? So let's see, you're gonna pick out the mayo from dengu and see what you can have for dinner in August 2022. It's another day, it's another morning, the 2nd of March 2022, and I'm requesting that you join in, please, like when you we get to know that you're watching us, and that way, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. As you've seen it, we have Mheshimiwa KOSITANY is an MP for Soy constituency, and he's also running for governor wa Singishu County. Tatuambia pia ni agenda gani hako nayo watu wa Singishu. Baada ya mwisho alikuwa hapa pia, alikuwa SG Jubilee. The last time he was here 1 year ago. Deputy SG. He was the Deputy SG Jubilee. Alikuwa anatuambia mambo ya Jubilee. Leo hii mambo ni sege mnege. You're going to have a different conversation. Things have changed in 1 year. A lot can change in a year. Clearly. A lot. And now looking at a different person, having a different conversation, of course, but still on the line of leadership. Na pia tuko na KWAME OWINO, is a CEO, Economic Institute of Economic Affairs. He was here also, surprisingly, 1 year ago. Both of them were here almost the same month 1 year ago. I've not seen KWAME this year, so he'll be here with us again, helping us understand the economic situation in the country. Yesterday, we were having a conversation around the public debt, and the question that has been going around is, are we in distress? What is the state of our public debt? What is the state of our economy? You've spoken. The president the other day in Sagana told us he's living a trillion, a multi-trillion economy. I don't know what's the feeling on the ground. Unasikiaje pale kwenye ground, lakini kama kawaida lazima tuende tuombe, halafu tukirudi basi na kuja kuona ni kina nani waamka, basi tukiweza kuingia kazi haraka upesi. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity. We thank you for this conversation. As we have it, may it edify the fabric of this country. We pray, trusting and believing. Amen.
Amen.
Haya. Mungu alita continue morning kimtako tuning in from Coventry, United Kingdom. Good to be part of this morning's Siasa Wednesday edition. Haya, ni siasa na uchumi. Yesterday, Kalonzo announced his plan to announce when he will be announcing his next announcement. Interesting times. All right. And Raila Odinga, or his allies, have come out guns blessing strongly, and they're saying that we don't need you. We don't need you. We can, if you either join as a mayor or you take a walk. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting time to see in politics. William Wangi, good morning, team. Good morning to you. Mariak Deng Malwal, good morning. I'm watching from Nakuru. Asante sana. Betito, good morning. Lagad Joffrey, good morning. Tuning from Kisumu. Kipkwechkip. I'm tuning from Kiblombe. Senda KOSITANY Tosha for governor. Julius Rono Kiambu watching. Asante. Kibe Kamau, good morning from Mombasa watching. Thank you so much. Kasai Skelv, morning from Tanzania. Chama ni UDA. Watu wa Tanzania anasema chama ni UDA. Interesting times. I'm saying my PC is misbehaving a bit. So we can just pick from you, Mheshimiwa. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Gerald. Happy New Year, KWAME, and all our listeners.
Yeah. You've not seen you in a very long time.
Yes, it's been a while, and I've been up and about.
How things have changed.
Building UDA, and I think it has now gotten fit. It is able to run, and it's the most popular party now in the country.
Okay.
And even outside, you've had somebody in Tanzania saying UDA is the party.
Unajua chama inaitwa ni Chama cha Mapinduzi. CCM na UDA, they share the same color, so maybe could that be the inspiration?
Well, I think UDA speaks to the minds and to the souls of the people, okay. And that has been lacking a lot in our politics. And I think it's now we have a political party that for once has managed to change the conversation. Okay. When we said we must change the conversation and we're going to change it, we're happy it has changed. Now everybody is discussing bottom up in so many different ways. We have moved from Tialala, from Tibim and empty promises, and just going to political rallies and whipping emotion from people. But now we're talking sense. We in UDA are talking about the bottom-up economic model, and I'm happy that ODM, because Azimio is still ODM, let's not lie to ourselves, is now talking also bottom-up, though in a different version. They're talking about giving out handouts, 6,000 shillings to
social
every
protection
household and everything. And we like it because people now are discussing issues that they can be held to account for. Right. That they can be held to account for. So I think we're in a good place politically. People underrated His Excellency the Deputy President. They thought he was a pushover, but I think now he has proved that he's not a pushover. He knows what he wants and he's going for it. The only disappointment is that we have clawed back a lot on the democratic gains we had made as a country, whereby we are back to the eras of the 70s and the 80s, whereby freedom of association is not respected. We have our business people, we have professionals like KWAME here, who we value their input, and we want to get them to give input to the political leadership without having to look at the back and see who is following them. Will they be victimized? Because if you are seen today with KOSITANY, the next thing you have KRA, you have on your back, and yet we are all working to serve this country. So it's sad that we have gotten to that stage. We want to assure Kenyans that the UDA government will allow freedom of association irrespective of your political inclination, so that we can have ideas from all corners. We can have our businessmen be able to support whoever they want to support, because they are part and parcel. Politics is the driving force of a country. It's politics that decides how a country runs. And so you cannot lock out the businessmen from giving their input. They may not run for any political seat, but they may decide to support Caleb and finance him. And that should be allowed without them being intimidated. So I think we also are in a place whereby we gave President Uhuru Kenyatta the mandate as members of Jubilee to run the affairs of this country. He's the CEO of the country. But the president has overstepped his mandate, because now he has adopted another mandate whereby he wants now to tell us who will be his successor. He should learn from President Moi. President Moi endorsed Uhuru in 2002. He had all the machinery of government. He was actually the last most powerful president we'd ever have in the country. But that project failed. And it's not that we fear Uhuru or we fear him supporting Raila. He can support Raila in whatever way. But let other Kenyans also support whoever they want, express their political will without intimidation, without fear, without having to look back and having NSIS following us all over and all. We have enough threats from external boundaries and Al-Shabaab. All NSIS guys should be in Boni Forest, combing Boni Forest for Al-Shabaab, rather than following politicians, harmless politicians around. So I think the president, I have no problem at all. Absolutely no problem, and it is within his democratic right to support whoever he wants to support. That is okay. But then let him leave also Kenyans. Let him leave us alone. Let him leave the business community alone. Let him leave other politicians alone who have decided that they are going to join UDA or they are going to follow and support Deputy President William Ruto to be the 5th president. Let him act fair. That is all we ask. Otherwise, he is free to campaign for Raila, move around the country, give him all the straight resources and everything. That is absolutely okay. Let him do it, because that is what he feels like doing. But let him also give us our space.
Two questions now that you've taken that angle. Two questions before we go to KWAME. First of all, a lot has changed since you were last year. The last time you were talking for Jubilee, you were speaking for Jubilee as a deputy SG. Today you seem to be having a different alliance in terms of party alliance. What has changed? And the question of endorsement, if he was endorsing the deputy president, as he had agreed, would it still be a problem? I'm actually, thanks you've asked that question. I actually forgot that bit. President Uhuru, when we were campaigning, out of his own volition, said, I will go for 10 years, and then William Ruto will go for 10 years. Unsolicited. We never supported Uhuru Kenyatta with any condition whatsoever. Not at least not in a meeting that I sat in.
You never asked for Kumi.
We never asked for him to support us. And still even now, we are not asking for him to support us. What we are asking is a fair playing ground. If he had, as you had asked, would it have been different if he was endorsing William Ruto? Of course it would be different, because this is somebody he has worked with. This is somebody who has who has ridden on his shoulders, and he has ridden on Uhuru's shoulders. This is somebody, and this is a president is not just a normal human being. He's not, he's a normal human being, yes, but he's just not an ordinary citizen. He is the CEO of the country. Just the way I am in my current position as a member of parliament of Soy. Whatever I say, I have to choose my words, because one, the internet never forgets. So there are things that the president said about Raila. Even one, he said, I cannot hand over the country to an old man, to an older person than me, I will hand over to a younger person. William Ruto is younger than me. And then William Ruto will hand over to another younger person. Those were his own words. And so it is really not a problem. I think President Uhuru will have to live with the fact that he has gone back against his own word. I don't believe he has betrayed William Ruto because there was no agreement. He has actually betrayed himself. Yeah, he has not betrayed William Ruto because there was no agreement. William Ruto was not depending on President Uhuru Kenyatta for him to succeed him. William Ruto was depending on God and the people. And that is where we are, with God and the people. And we have our manifesto, we have our agenda, we have our plan. And we believe our plan now has sunk. It has resonated well with the common Mwananchi. The common Mwananchi are the ones who queue, Gerald, who queue for hours to vote. And those are the people that are always forgotten. Once they have voted, then we start the trickle-down approach. This time we have told them, go and vote. We shall start from the bottom up.
Okay. All right. So as we speak, all of you have moved from Jubilee as things stand now.
Well, I think Jubilee is moribund. Jubilee is dead. They are struggling. They are really trying to stay afloat. I think the boat has a big hole. It is sinking faster than and we told them. I told them. I think when I was here last, we discussed that, and Jubilee took a wrong turn because when you turn against your people, the pillars of the political party, and think now that you have gotten power, they are useless. You can insult them and tell them what you feel. You know, we have actually been molested in Jubilee. The entire, even those who are still there, know that we have been really mistreated. Like when you are called for this, the so-called PG meetings in a state house, they are monologue meetings. First of all, you're told leave your watch and your phone in the car. You're told the meeting will start at 8. So you end up there at 8 o'clock sharp, you're there. Sumptuous 5 or 7 course meal breakfast is served. You have everything you'd want to think of in a breakfast table is served. But you sit there for 2 hours. From 8 to 10 o'clock. Then the president walks in and the meeting lasts 25 minutes. And he's the only one who talks. Period. You get to your card, you look at your watch, you say, my, I've been there waiting for 2.5 hours for a 25-minute monologue meeting, and you call that a Jubilee has had a PG. And that is how Jubilee lost it. I think what is members who are left in Jubilee now, they actually can't fit in one matatu. There'll still be space for more. And it is sad. A party that had the majority in the National Assembly, the majority in the Senate, the majority in the county assemblies, the majority in the governors, Council of Governors, decided to just break that and now go and coalesce with small political parties, all because of trying to retain power in another form. So I think enough said of Jubilee. We now need to talk about bottom up and the future, and the future.
All right, back to you, Kwame OWINO. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Because Salama.
Yes, I am.
Now you are the check that keeps our guys going. How have you been?
I'm okay.
Okay, mekwa vipi?
Fine.
What has changed also? You know, I was talking to Mheshimiwa and a lot was changed since he was here last. What has changed since you were here last?
Well, yes, when I was last here, we still had to wear masks, and obviously there was still, people were still working half day or working from home.
Yes.
I think since then, vaccination has gone out. We now know how to handle COVID, and we don't have those, they're still there, but we don't hear those statements about how many people have died and that pressure that everybody's facing about the possibility of contracting
COVID.
And yes, so it looks like everything's a little better now. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll start with you. Ntaanza na mambo ya uchumi. What is the state of the economy as we speak?
Okay, well, so if you compare to last year, it seems to be better, of course, with the except for the conflict that we now have in Eastern Europe right now between Russia, of course, and Ukraine. It might make it a little worse, but I think comparing to where we were last year, it seemed as if everything was turning up. The data that's reported suggested that, of course, jobs were growing at a very slow pace, but jobs were growing. The economy was growing, except for the fact that last year's crop failure, or that insufficient rain, so obviously there was not a sufficient harvest, so the prices of food especially was going up. And at the same time, we had global prices of petroleum are going up. It's become worse now with the trouble in Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
So it was a mixed case. I think some things were doing better. Businesses were reopening. In Kenya, the tourism was opening quite a little bit because vaccination was possible. The number of Kenyans who've been vaccinated, I think right now, are more than 4 million, heading towards 5. So in all, many more things were happening. Of course, schools are opened completely. At that time, I think there was just the signal from the Ministry of Education that schools would reopen. So in that 1 year, it's a mixed picture. Of course, there's also the expectation that there'll be an election at in August of this year as well.
Okay. All right. There's been a push and pull about public debt.
Yes.
And there's been a conversation around it's too high for us. We kept raising the ceiling, the borrowing ceiling, of course, in Parliament, where my good friend here sits. He'll also help us understand why they've been keeping raising the ceiling. But about public debt, are we in distress?
Yes, we are. I mean, it's not today. Kenya's been in distress for 3 years. I mean, it's not today. So what does debt distress mean? Debt distress means that because the government or all arms of government have bills to pay, they're not able to pay all of them in time, and so the backlog in the number of bills that are supposed to be paid vis-a-vis the money that's available is actually getting bigger. That's debt distress in the sense that you need to run much faster to keep the same amount. I mean, to keep everything afloat, and it's clear. So you hear business people who supplied. So let's start with suppliers. Business people who supplied government with goods in 2020, or actually the end of 2019, reporting in the press that they haven't been paid. And their invoices that they sent, they're being told, look, government will clear the money for us to come, but they haven't been paid or being paid in pieces. So that's a 2-3 year backlog of expenditure for suppliers. Is in itself suggests that obviously there's been debt distress. Yeah.
Alright. Wamesema hapa pia ongeza sauti kidogo, so maybe you either pull your mic closer ama ongeza ugali kidogo. Alright. On the issues of debt, of course, what is debt a problem, or what problems are we having as a country about it? Because I had Raila the other day, quite interesting. I love the way these politicians keep changing spaces. The other time he was the biggest crusader against debt. Well, this other side was pro-debt. Today they are against debt and he is pro-debt. And Raila Odinga came out very clearly and said that there's no country that doesn't have debt, which is true. A lot of countries have debt. What is the different situation that we are in as a country that we can speak about being in distress and still say there's no country that doesn't have debt? Where does our money go to?
Okay, so let's start with debt. You know, debt is a result of a budget deficit, which means that the government of Kenya every year, and that's the responsibility of Parliament, for which perhaps Caleb will tell us how they reason. But the point is this: the government of Kenya, say for instance this year, the government of Kenya, last year, so the financial year that started in in July of 2021, and will be ending in June of this year. So the government of Kenya intended to spend 3.1 trillion Kenya shillings, which is about 10 billion shillings per day. The taxes that were being collected were just about 6 billion per day. So it means that 4 billion difference per day is actually through debt or any grants. So that deficit of you have 10 billion to spend per day, but you only have 6 billion that is collected in taxes on a good day. So that 3 billion deficit comes added to the total debt stock of the country. That's what it is. So debt is a result of spending without the revenues to meet it. It's as if you have your wallet and you've spent, so you have 600 shillings in your wallet, but you've, on the side of, you go to a place, you have 600 shillings on your wallet, but you've spent 1,000. It means either whoever it is who owes you, yes, precisely. So that's the Fuliza thing. And we Fuliza this all the way from 2014, spending 500 billion more than was collected consistently. On the year we had elections, it was 800. This year, it might get to another trillion. So that's it. So that is the question of debt is the accumulation of spending without the revenues to pay for it. So at one time, of course, it continues to pile and it continues to grow. And that's one of the most spectacular things that Jubilee has given us as a gift. As
a legacy.
Thank you very much.
Legacy. All right. So is that bad? As such?
Not necessarily. I think what my view would be this. The Constitution of Kenya has some very good guidelines for how decisions are made.
Okay.
One of the decisions requires that we balance the benefits and responsibilities for the public expenditure between present and future generations.
Okay.
In other words, the Constitution is reminding us that we cannot borrow money and kick the bill into the future for other people.
Yeah.
It's just unfair and obviously, actually, even unethical. So if you take those then it's suggesting to us that every administration or every parliament should, to the extent that is possible, try and balance its own budgets.
Okay.
But if you're spending and then kicking it into the future, I think it's an irresponsible way of saying, look, let someone else pay, but we will have
someone
fun
deal
today.
with this. Okay. Jubilee has been mentioned. Mheshimiwa Caleb KOSITANY.
Yes.
That KWAME has said that the most spectacular legacy that you've left with them, that Jubilee has left with the country, is debt. What are your thoughts on that? Now that you sit in Parliament, you keep raising the ceiling.
I sit in Parliament, and as Kwame has said, it is a role of Parliament and the mandate of Parliament to set the debt ceiling. Okay. We have been consistently against the rising of the debt ceiling. In fact, our team in Parliament has been very much against. The latest was even the clip that I was playing before we began the program. An amendment by the Honorable MP for Kikuyu,
Kimani
Ichung'wah, on the budget policy statement and some of the things that we passed that could leave a loophole for government to go beyond the 9 trillion ceiling. And it was defeated because ODM have ganged up with others, and they don't want to hear any reason. And I think it is coming, all the issues that we are suffering from, it's not enough to blame Jubilee alone. I think it's Jubilee and ODM. Okay. Because ODM have a person in the name of Raila Odinga who is so desperate. He wants to be president, and now he has reached a place whereby he wants to be president no matter what happens to the Republic of Kenya. And that is why he can casually say, there is no country that doesn't have debt. We don't live because of other countries. We live in Kenya. We want to think like Kenyans. We want to sort out our issues as Kenyans. It is not that if Tanzania or the US or Britain or any other country, Uganda has debt, then we should also accumulate debt because others have debt. And it will be dangerous to have such a leader who treats issues, economics, very casually that way. We will do our best in Parliament. We will keep an eye. We will always point out where we see that there is a mistake. But because of the ganging up of ODM and what is left of Jubilee and Wiper and all these other small political parties, and also because of the threats and intimidation and coercion that goes on even within Parliament, people are scared to speak the truth. So it's actually sad that that members of Parliament some of them have become puppets of state capture. They become victims of state capture. Us, we are victims. We've been captured by the people whom we represent, and that is why we will always speak out without fear or favor. It is important that we also get professionals like KWAME here to be giving us the insights of what we need to do, because I think what may also lack is we have professionals who know what should be done. They also know what should be said, but they just say, let's leave it to parliamentarians. We are not angels. So I would love, when we leave here, KWAME I would have his number and he has mine. And whenever he has anything to say about the economy, he can text me or WhatsApp me. And I can assure him, I'll mention it on the floor of the House. Because that is what we need to build that synergy between Parliament and the business community, so that you're fully represented. And I want to use this opportunity to tell Kenyans, take interest in politics. Politics is a driver. Politics determines how the country moves. Politics determines how the economy is run. Politics determines the taxes you will pay. It is decided in Parliament. So ensure that if you are not in Parliament yourself, then ensure that you have somebody in Parliament who will speak and who will represent your interests, but not the interests of the state.
All right. It would be then correct to say that Parliament has been the weakest link between the people and administration.
Sadly, it is.
Okay.
Sadly.
So Parliament has failed.
Parliament has failed. Part of it. Of course, I'm not part of the failure. Part of it has failed, and we will be bringing this out as we go closer to the election. We shall be bringing this out because it is now, as somebody said yesterday after seeing Kalonzo's statement, and it is now, I saw on Twitter, Kenyans come up with many things. This is much.
Lacking a lot.
And the way people wanaambiana ukweli, by the time we get to August, I don't know what will be needed. So I think this is the year of telling each other the truth. Ini mwaka ya kusema ukweli, and we are going to say a lot of truths, and nothing but the truth.
Right. So the other day, Rigathi Gachagua had said that niko na mambo mingi nikianza sema hapa dunia inaweza simama. Right now, the deputy president is in America on a 14-day tour of America, UK, and Qatar. What is it about?
Well, I think for a very long time, the deputy president has been lacking a lot, has been blocked from leaving the country. And you even saw a trip to Uganda was interfered with. But I think because of the pressure and the consistency, and also the obvious fact that the deputy president is not a pushover, he's a key player in the Kenyan politics. The United States government saw it fit to invite him to go and listen to his economic model, to go and listen to what he has in mind for Kenya. I saw yesterday he had a meeting at the Nebraska University on issues of agriculture, modern day agriculture, which is where we want to go. 90% of Kenyans live in the rural areas and are farmers, and we want to transform farming. And as we say, we are going to start from the bottom up. Farming is one of the key products of bottom up, that we are going to ensure that we get our farmers to do farming in a modern way, to do farming in a profitable way. And without government assistance and input, we will never be able to achieve that. So I think the trip is good. It is going also to expose the deputy president to the positive side of him will be seen, because there's been a lot of negative energy towards him, which is not true. And I think once he gets to interact with the international community, then they get to know the kind of person they're dealing with. They get to listen to him and see that he actually has good ideas for this country.
All right. Back to you, KWAME. We seem to be having two narratives in the country. Last 2 weeks, we had an hashtag that was running around. We have moved on from it anyway. That's why I love Kenya. We move on so fast. Now we're talking about other things. We're on Kalonzo. Now we had an hashtag that was running, lower food prices. And at the same time, where the president was speaking about the state of the economy, and he's so impressed with the state of the economy that I'm handing over a 13 trillion economy to Raila Odinga. He's also continued to speak about the growth of the economy, that I've grown the economy on not even double digits as he's promised. I think it's almost quadruple. And he has said we are now sixth in sixth in Africa or in the world? Sixth in Africa. Our economy is the sixth in Africa. We have two conflicting narratives. And the question has been, even as you speak about the GDP growth, as Kenyans speak another narrative, what is the real state of the economy?
Okay. So when the president stated, I think he stated more than once that Kenya is the sixth largest. He says that Kenya is the sixth richest. Not very true, but Kenya is the sixth largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. No, in Africa.
In Africa.
He means the total value of Kenya's output measured and compared to the rest of the countries in the continent. In that, it is true. That alone, just stated about the size of the economy, it is true.
Okay.
What is not is when you measure incomes, what are the incomes of individual Kenyans. So when it comes to that, I mean, Kenya is actually out of the top 15. So that's basically another thing, one more legacy of Jubilee. So let's talk about food prices. One of the things about our countries is, as we had earlier, most Kenyans are farmers. And obviously when people farm, they're dependent on rain agriculture. So if we don't have rains, like we didn't have sufficient rains in the second season last year, that tends to affect farmers' output, and obviously that affects their income. And affects the amount of food that's available, especially maize, rice, and all those crops that are dependent on heavy rainfall. So that's what happened. Because of that, the food prices have been going up. Part of that created by the fact that there's a shortage, and obviously there's not enough in the stores, so more food has to be imported. But even the imports come in with the fact that, one, fuel prices globally have also been going up. And the prices of fuel are important for food for two reasons. One, fertilizers that are used in the production of food are themselves a byproduct or produced from the oil refinery process. And then at the same time, transportation of grain, and you know grains are very bulky globally, has also been affected by the fact that because of COVID, there's a delay in supply chains. So there have been serious disruptions in supply chains. I mean, some countries, as you can remember, didn't have enough containers because containers went to some parts of the world. So as that is being fixed, that has created a rise in the prices of food globally. And that comes into the country. One other factor that affects it in Kenya, food imports, obviously, food is charged a tax, very high taxes actually. So that obviously contributes to that price. And also petroleum. If you look at the prices of petroleum, less for diesel, but if you look at the prices of premium, close to about 43% of it is actually just taxes, in one form or the other. Again, the responsibility of parliament. So if you look at all these other things, it's true. Prices went up. Some of it are things that government could not control, but others are things that government wants to, because parliament and the executive together agree that let's charge this amount of taxes on food, imports, on even domestically, because we want to run specific projects. Those projects may be anything, and that might be some of the projects the president is talking about, how many kilometers of road he created, where, and stuff like that. So if we have a government, and by government I don't mean the executive, I mean parliament on one side together with the executive, who agree on a budget, that budget requires taxes to be raised. Those taxes are raised. Obviously, it reflects in the kind of food prices that we saw. So that's part of it. Oh yeah, let's talk about cooking oil. Cooking oil actually had the highest, and it's one of the things that started that hashtag, if I remember. Now, again, cooking oil is a byproduct of an agricultural product. It's palm oil. Most of it is grown in Malaysia and Indonesia, in East Asia. Now, those countries, just like Kenya, suffered lockdowns because of COVID. And what happened is they tend to have migrant workers. So when there's a lockdown, migrant workers, because they don't have income, go back home. Before they come back, do the harvest so that it can be processed. It takes some time. So there's a 3 months to 4 months lag between what the demand is and what the supply is. So all those things, some of them, the reason I mentioned them elaborately, some of them are not in the control of the government of Kenya, but there are some that are exactly in the control of the government of Kenya. And that's basically the port efficiency, transportation through SGR, and the taxes, all of which the executive and parliament tend to agree on because it's reflected in a budget.
So is it possible to reduce food prices as we demand as Kenyans?
To the extent that government has control on taxes, yes.
It's possible?
Yes.
All right. Ashimia, the state of the economy, we have 2 stories. Which story do we buy?
I think KWAME has put it very well. The biggest problem we have is over-taxation of Kenyans. And our government should be sensitive to the fact that Kenyans are suffering. We try mentioning it in parliament, and because sadly some people have just seen politics in everything, even in matters that touch on Kenyans directly, the people they are meant to represent in the House, but parochial interests have taken center stage. The other thing that government needs to look at is wastage. We have a lot of wastage in government. I don't know if you've driven down to town, the former Kenya Railways Club. There is a huge bus park that is being built there. To me, that is the 21st century white elephant. It cannot work. It cannot sell. I don't know. They have now started constructing another road. It has taken in a lot of money through NMS. But it is a poorly thought out idea. But it's just because you want to please the master and say we want to leave legacy, then we're coming up with such projects. I don't know what that project is. Well, it's meant to be a bus park, but I don't know. I don't even know how it's going to work. I've really tried to understand it. I would like to sit down even with the engineers who designed it, and we see what was the idea. How will the Kenyans cross? Those who have been dropped there, how will they cross now to the city? They will cross a serious traffic jam. When they did the test run, it was a nightmare. The entire the whole of Nairobi blocked. So government needs to come down from the ivory tower and reduce taxes. The issue of food has to be sorted out now. I wish this government would put as much energy to the food crisis and the economic crisis that we have, like they put in useless things like BBI, like they put in chasing around politicians and business people who are not supporting the president's project. Because it's very obvious that Raila Odinga is President Uhuru's project, and he has accepted so, and that is how it is. And we have no problem with that. But I wish they would put that much energy, the way they were all over KICC, Kasarani, running around in these NDCs, they were in Bomas, whatever. That same energy, put it down to work, to real work, to focus on lowering food prices. If they did that, same energy, that's all they need, and we'd be good as a country.
Now you've expressed interest in one of the units of governance, which is devolution, and I would want to know what do you think is the state of devolution as we speak?
I think devolution has suffered in the second term of the Jubilee government. They have been starved of cash. There has been very slow disbursement of funds. There has been a lot of intimidation and threats of arrests and all. So everybody has been overcautious in even with the way they procure for services and all. So I think we've really suffered. But devolution is a good thing. Devolution is a very good thing. I hope and I pray that the government of William Ruto, when it comes in, will ensure that we have timely disbursement of resources and allow the governors to operate and also have regular sittings. It is so important that governors have a sitting with the president at least quarterly, and a physical sit-up so that they can discuss programs that they have, where the state can plug in, and so on and so forth. And also allow county governments to interact with the international, with other countries, so that you can have that direct funding to the counties also. And that money is available. You just need the goodwill of government to look at areas, not because of the political inclination, but let us look at, we are serving Kenyans, we are serving the people of Kenya. And I think that is where we want to drive. So I think devolution is a very good thing. We are done, I think, with the teething problems. Now we know the importance of a governor. We know the importance of an MCA. And as I always say to the business community, it is very key. It's very important that you get the right governor. It is very, very important that you get the right MCA. Because those are the people who will be handling the local business environment there. Members of parliament will come and legislate in Nairobi. So I still insist. They call them the white collar job guys. Let them get involved in politics. If not for elective, let them ensure that they get people who they can always advise and people who they can always interact with, so that they can push their agendas in the National Assembly. The National Assembly is a very, very powerful house. And it's a very, very key driver in every aspect of our lives as Kenyans. So it is important that we get in the right people.
Right. And also clearly then it can also be negatively powerful in the sense that it can stall things, as we are having a conversation around now. And it can be misused for, any other person who has maybe interests that are different from the public interest can also use parliament to muscle it out. Now, you're running for governor.
Yes.
Uasin Gishu County. Yes. That's where I come from. And maybe I'm the best person to ask you questions about Uasin Gishu. So what's your interest in Uasin Gishu County?
You see,
why
Gerald,
the interest in running?
My greatest interest in Uasin Gishu County is to build the economic stability of the people. That is my biggest interest. Uasin Gishu has a lot of potential. We grow flowers, we can do avocado, we do coffee, we do wheat, we do maize, we have dairy cows, we have goats and sheep. We should be the biggest exporters of beef. We should be the biggest exporters of hides and skins. We should be the biggest exporters of coffee, flowers, and everything, vegetables. So fresh produce, for that matter. So I think that is where we need to focus in Uasin Gishu County. I always say that most of the times we focus on building roads and making good roads. But if my road is tarmacked up to my gate, yet I have no coin in the pocket, how does it help me? So I want to focus in Uasin Gishu. Let us focus first on building the economic status, uplifting the economic status of the people. And we don't need rocket science. We want to uplift it with what they have. Those little farms they have, the big farms they have, we want to tell them what they need to do so that that farm is profitable to them. And once we do that, I think we'll be good to go. The other key thing in Uasin Gishu is we have the natural talent of sports. So it would be good to develop good stadia so that our athletes, and we can tap that talent at a very raw stage. It would be good to have at least a nice running track, even if it's not a stadium, a running track. Identify one school, have a nice running track in each sub-county so that the athletes can train to the international standards, and so that we can also nurture that talent, which is also a great source of income for athletes. And many other things that we can do. But I think also Uasin Gishu is a cosmopolitan county. It needs a governor who understands that how to balance the interests of the communities that live within Uasin Gishu. And also it needs a sober person who has had some experience. I think a governor's job is very, very, very important. It is the same as a president's job. You need somebody who understands, somebody who can listen, somebody who has time to be on the ground and do the things that are required. One of the key things that I have picked from my interactions with the people within Uasin Gishu County is water. Water is a very, very, very key requirement. And I think for us to be able to move farming to the next stage, whereby we want our farmers to start zero grazing, or if not zero grazing, semi-zero grazing, not herding their cows kilometers away in search of pasture. With that, you need water at the source so that you don't have to drive your cattle far for water. So I think that is one of the key things that I'm going to put on top of my agenda. Provide water, that is by building dams. I don't think it's we can sustain with boreholes. At times you sink a borehole, spend so much money, then you find the water is salty. And so we just create surface dams so that we can hold enough water, then can be used by everybody for irrigation and even for their homestead use.
Okay. What do you think would be some of the reasons, maybe 2, 3, 5, why it should be Caleb KOSITANY? Why not every other person? Because I've realized actually my hometown has the most gubernatorial aspirants. I think every other person is running for governor. Uasin Gishu, every corner you turn, there is a poster, there is a billboard, there is this and that. Why Caleb KOSITANY?
I think the reason why if there are many aspirants, first of all, is because our governor has done a second term. There is no incumbent who is running. But why Caleb KOSITANY is because he has a track record. I have a track record that I've been in politics since 1988 when I first voted. Maybe some of the guys here were not born, but on a light note. And I've seen leaders come and go. I worked with the then MP for Eldoret North, Ruben Chesire. I campaigned for him and he won in his first year. The next year, Saina took over. Then in 1997, the deputy president came in and was our member of parliament for 15 years. I worked very closely with him then. And then, of course, we have moved from party to party. We were in KANU, then we went to ODM. From ODM, we went to URP. And from URP went to Jubilee, and now we're in UDA, and I think this is our retirement party. We're going to build UDA to be a party like no other. So I think I have experience from what I have done in my 4.5 years as member of parliament for Soy. It's there for everybody to see. And most of all, I am born, bred, and educated in Uasin Gishu County. I hold it dear to me that we need to take Uasin Gishu County to the next level. We have an airport that is underutilized. Currently, we just have flights in and out for passenger flights, and we have cargo planes that bring in goods from Dubai and wherever that come into Nairobi to load fresh produce, flowers and vegetables, and take them to Dubai or wherever they're taking them. That should not be happening. The plane should land in Eldoret, offload the cargo it has, and load flowers and fresh produce from Eldoret. So we need to think on those areas to build the economic stay and economic stability of our people, and that will be my goal.
Okay. All right, you've heard it. Be the judge. He has spoken for himself. He has talked about his track record for the last 1.5 years. All right. He has told you the things that he wants to do for Uasin Gishu County. So, listen to it. See, question what you can question, and then you make a decision that you can make. As a resident of Uasin Gishu, I'll also have a subject, so I'll think about it and see what to do with the information. Kwame, state of devolution, 10 years, almost 10 years later. What has been the state of devolution? And also, I think the most units that have been criticized for pilferage and corruption has been the county unit. But anyway, let's start from what is the state of devolution in your own sense? Has it achieved what it was supposed to achieve almost 10 years later?
Okay, first let's remember that devolution was, I think, the biggest public sector change that this country has ever tried, because it came from a new constitution. We had elections of governors. In the early stages, it wasn't very clear whether the first Jubilee administration was really interested in deepening devolution or not. Over time, devolution started to show its fruits and results. Unlike everything else that is done by the public sector, of course, it's mixed results. But as Caleb mentioned earlier, there's a difference with, I think one of the things that we need to assure is government, through the division of revenue bill and the allocation of revenue, the disbursements to counties have not been prompt, or at least, yes, in a way that actually affects their ability to execute their budgets. But that stated, if you look at the Auditor General's reports, they show that there are some counties that actually have very clean management records in terms of spending. Others have terrible ones. But that's the same for the national government as well, except that at the national government level, money is getting lost in billions and tens of billions, dozens of billions. At the county levels, it's usually some, I mean, it reflects the scale of the size of the county. So we have a general public sector corruption problem and procurement fraud, but it runs from national government and all that. And I think it's a reflection of weaknesses in the national government which are being reproduced
in the county levels.
Yes, because some of these people. So yes, there's that public sector reform question that needs to be done yet. However, every time surveys are carried, not us at the Institute of Economic Affairs, but we've read survey, every time surveys are carried, if there's one thing that Kenyans are consistent about, is that devolution was a good move, and devolution has, its net effects have been positive. So who am I to argue with that?
I think, Gerald, there's something that I'd like to note, that if I would have it my way, and if a proper opportunity comes for change in the constitution, whenever that will be, one of the things that I would propose to be changed is the issue of governor being an elected person. I think, in my own view, the governor's position is so important that it should not have been tied with politics. So that a governor has to run around pleasing people, doing harambes, attending each and every other function. A governor should be a CEO, an executive. I would see that we should find a way whereby the gubernatorial position becomes an appointment through an interview by maybe the political party that garners the most votes in that county. Then they can now form a panel and ask people to apply to be CEO of Uasin Gishu County, for example. And in that case, we detribalize also the gubernatorial position, so that it doesn't have to be a Kalenjin governor for Uasin Gishu, or a Kikuyu governor for Kiambu, or a Luya governor for Kakamega, or a Luo governor for Kisumu. You can apply as Gerald for governor of Kisumu.
And I go to Kisumu.
These are terms and conditions. Get down to work. And so that when you are in the office, you leave now the politics of the county to the MCAs and the members of parliament, and you run the county as a CEO. I think the delivery would be the net effect of delivery would be higher. But I think as it is now, then we need to live with what we have. But if an opportunity comes, that is a proposal I will be making, that a governor should not be an elective position.
That's an interesting proposal. What do you think, Kwame? Would it make sense? Or would it change much in how we run our counties or our devolved units?
Okay. You know, the logic of the constitution is that the governor is elected because you have to interpret politically what the challenges and interests are. That's one. Two, a decision maker with as much power as a government cannot be and should not be isolated from political pressure, for the reason that then they become the equivalent of provincial administration of old, right? I mean, they also think they're doing good work and they're doing development and stuff like that. So politics might have its own problems, and I think the sectarian politics, which reflects in ethnicity, is one of them. But in my view, I'd rather people have a choice about the fact that, look, this governor is telling us that this is his interpretation of the challenges of County X, and the other governor is telling us this for that reason. Because what will happen if you put it back there, if you allow parties to actually do for it, what will happen is that political party operatives, those administrators within political parties, will work their way to managing that. I personally actually think that it's a good thing for governors to be responsible for missteps and the challenges that a county faces and how they respond to them. Only then, because a person who's too comfortable for bearing a bureaucrat's view is one whose need to actually respond to what people desire or even to public pressure would be much reduced. And that was the problem that Kenya had with the fact that whether it was provincial administration or bureaucrats in general, they usually execute projects. Yes, they execute projects regardless of what the public thinks, by simply saying, look, we have orders from above, or we have a plan, which nobody in the public saw, and all that. So I think Caleb needs to consider what would be lost by making the government a permanent making the governor's office one of a permanent bureaucrat.
All right. Okay, there's all right, before I go to, there's a political question that keeps coming up here for Caleb. I'll push it to him. But before we go to that, you've talked about pilferage and corruption all the way from the top downwards to the devolved units. Then clearly your statement is we don't have a fiscal transparency as a country. Do we?
No, we don't have sufficient fiscal transparency.
How do we achieve it?
I mean, Parliament. You see, let me tell you why I think it's Parliament. Parliament has such an important role. So, for instance, if Parliament says, as Honorable Kimani Chungwa was trying yesterday to say that, look, we are not going to raise the budget ceiling. We are not going to raise the debt ceiling to allow for more borrowing. That's one side. When you think about economics or rather accounting, you have two sides, the debit and the credit side. Now, if you say we are not going to allow government to raise the debt ceiling, but you allow them to have a deficit of 1 trillion shillings, you've done nothing. Because if you really want to manage, the debt, or rather the public debt, you actually have to stop spending. It's not about the debt ceiling or not. So that's the first. But the reason, talking about fiscal transparency, so for instance, we hear members of parliament say that every year some 40 billion is being used, about 27 billion is being used to repay the loan for the standard gauge railway, for instance, right? But nobody in parliament has been given a copy of the contract. In my view, it is irresponsible for a member of parliament to approve the repayment of a loan for a contract that does not exist. It's irresponsible because the Constitution states clearly that no taxation and no expenditure may be made without parliament having approved. Part of the approval process for parliament is to say, who are we paying? Because there have been claims, I don't believe them, but there have been claims that sometimes we are paying ghost contracts where somebody claims to have a contract with the Republic of Kenya and is being paid without that. So all these things could be settled through a transparency mechanism where parliament says, look, we are prepared to pay because that's an obligation, but as parliamentarians, we must scrutinize that contract and say, who are we paying for how much, on what basis? That's all. Just the debt register. Publishing the debt register is something that Parliament actually should insist upon because the Cabinet Secretary is also obligated every year to present to Parliament the status of debt. So it's not enough to present the status of debt by saying we owe person X this amount. We need to say we owe person X this amount based on these 3 contracts on these terms. So that's one area in which transparency is not sufficient. And again, it is upon Parliament to put its foot down and say, look, this money does not belong to anybody in the Treasury. It is money for the Republic of Kenya, and we as the people's representatives are actually the controllers of the purse. You cannot ask us to give out a credit card for free for somebody from Treasury to swipe as he wishes. No, we want to find out who it is, we are paying.
All right. So as we speak, we have an economy then, from what we've been painting in this conversation, we have an economy that's I don't want to be the devil himself and say maybe struggling, but it's almost, there's that feel in the country. And you are an economist. Yes. It's on your area of expertise, or area of expertise. What would be some of those medium structural reforms that you do to this economy to ensure that it is sustainable?
Okay.
If tomorrow, let's say you're not running for president, let's say tomorrow, Kwame, because we're all running for something, I might actually consider running for president. If Kwame was president, what are some of those, medium, short-term structural reforms that you would put in the country to ensure that we have a better economy?
All right. So the first is this. I think there'd be three things. So, but the first one is this. The new parliament needs to come to before the cabinet treasury and tell him, last year you spent 3.2 trillion, right? We will cap it at a similar amount. Okay. We are not raising any new expenditure for you. So that's the first one. You cap it at 3.2 trillion, nothing more. So we are spending the same amount of money that we spent last year. So that's the first. The second is you then have to cut waste. Okay. By saying, of course, the cabinet secretary said that there's a fiscal consolidation plan. Now, the fiscal consolidation plan means that government is going to try and make sure that expenditures match the revenues as much as is possible. Okay. So it means we are not bringing in new projects that are not part of the plan. And obviously, we are going to have to prioritize. So, for instance, we have priorities in health, on education, whether it's security and everybody else, that's a second. The third issue would be privatization. Okay. There are certain government assets that are in the public sector's hands that could actually be leveraged to provide government with money to pay debt, but also to actually release the pressure from government to be able to do certain things. Okay. So you just need to listen. Kenya has a privatization commission that was formed sometime, I think, in 2004, right? And since 2014, was it 2012, it has not done any work. So why do you maintain a commission spending hundreds of millions of shillings every year, but it's doing nothing? So either that privatization commission needs to be closed, and I don't agree. It should be opened, and Parliament should say, look, you have 10 years to complete the privatization program, and then we close you. Okay. Because there are all these new institutions that exist. They take up a lot of money, but they're not adding value to public sector performance in Kenya. Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. To you, Mheshimiwa, there's been a question that has been coming up, and it is Siasa. And I've seen it come over 3 times now. The latest person to ask about is Special K from Denver, Colorado. And he's asking, Bitalk, a good show. Thanks for bringing Caleb on board. Ask him what his opinion is on what Gachagua said about the DP coming from Mount Kenya. Why can the DP be Karua? Much love from Denver, Colorado. Yes, that's to be the comments of Rigathi Gachagua. I know you don't speak for Rigathi Gachagua, but he speaks for all of you. Somehow that statement spoke for the larger part of UDA. Maybe in your own words, what do you think he meant? And do you agree or disagree with him?
I think the issue of running mate is a party internal matter, and it is a matter that will be made public. But we welcome and we will listen to every view, every idea will be listened to and will be given due consideration. But it is a matter that is being handled, and in due course we shall make it public who the deputy president's running mate will be. So I think we just ask Kenyans to hold their horses. So long as it is a Kenyan, it is going to be, we are not going to disappoint.
Right, okay. I had asked Kenyans what they think about having the governors being in a appointive position. I'm saying Clifton Otieno says not good. Given our behaviors, the MCS will think they are more powerful than the governor, which in turn leads to conflict and roadblocks in management of the county. Remember, MCS have still to pass the budget. Okay, that's something, because we tend to imagine that elected positions are more powerful than appointive. So maybe there could be an area of conflict. But in terms of management of resources and in terms of vision for growth and fiscal transparency, makes sense. But again, if they had the best of the MCS, then it becomes another different conversation.
It is something that can be worked on to find a middle ground, whereby the governor will be responsible and answerable to the appointing authority. So no political party that will be in charge of a particular county would want that county to go down, or would allow the governor to misbehave. And the terms and conditions of service will be clearly stipulated. But we are not there yet, so let us concentrate on the elections of governors now. That might never happen. That was just an idea.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. We came from, given devolution was an idea that came from somewhere, and somehow we adopted it. So maybe that's part of the streamlining that we need to do under devolution. Noni Belamso says, not applicable at all. An official who manages such a huge budget should seek mandate from the sovereign wananchi directly. Can you imagine the quid pro quo shenanigans? Anyway, let's go to Siasa kidogo. The development in the political landscape, the president has finally declared where he has his vote on. He has said it in Sagana. He's spoken very clearly on where he's supporting. And he has said it the other day during the NDC that kutoka sasa leo my blood, my flesh, and my speech shall be Azimio. He's in Azimio. Now, yesterday, Kalonzo as well has decided to let out the cats to come and bask in the sun. And he's reviving conversation around 2017 and the agreements they had with Kalonzo, with Raila Odinga. Mudavadi as well has come and saying, kama kumbe mlikuwa na agreement, mlikuwa mmetucheza pia. So there seems to be a kuchezwa na kuchezana. William Ruto as well and your team are crying foul. The president said, yangu kumi, yako kumi, today he has stand. Who is fooling this politics of the day, and where are the days
Gerald,
about to stop?
William Ruto's team is not crying.
Okay.
We are not feeling shortchanged by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay, at all.
Because we never at any one time
All right.
went to sleep and said the president must support us.
Okay.
He's human. He has his democratic right and he's exercising them now. And he's at liberty to support Raila Odinga.
Okay.
What we are unhappy about and uncomfortable about is one, our president has become very temperamental.
Okay.
Very temperamental. That is actually dangerous for the country. Watching him speak in his mother tongue in Sagana, he was almost breaking the microphone. And it's politics. We have taken our position, and some people and a lot of Kenyans have decided that they will follow the deputy president because his message resonates well with them. They see hope in his administration. They see logic in what he's speaking about, and he's talking about doables. He's not building castles in the air. So we want to urge our president, because unfortunately, and we have to do this through such forums, because we have no opportunity to sit down and have a discussion with him. These are some of the things now that would be discussed during PG meetings, when you have an interactive session, question and answer session, but then we've never had that opportunity.
Okay.
We just want to ask our president to remain calm, to remain calm. Kenya is okay. Kenyans are intelligent enough. The same intelligence they used to elect him in 2013, the same intelligence they used to reject him in 2002, then elect Kibaki in 2002. The same intelligence they used to elect him in 2013 and 2017 twice is the same intelligence they are going to apply to elect his successor.
Okay.
So he shouldn't. He should just lower his tempers. He shouldn't take this personal, as was said by my governor. He should have his politics in the lungs. They did not put it in the.
Agipumua inatoka.
Agipumua inatoka. Secondly, Kenya is largely a God-fearing nation, and majority of Kenyans are associated with this church and the other. It was very sad. It was a very sad moment that during the president's speech, part of those who got a lot of battering are the church. And he even said they would go to hell.
Utaenda Jahannam.
That is overstepping his mandate. His mandate was not to. I don't know where he got that mandate to decide who will go to hell and who will not. So I think the president should just tone down. We have absolutely no problem with him supporting Raila Odinga. He's very welcome. What we want is a level playing field. Let him stop the intimidation. Let the independent institutions, KRA, DCI, go back to their independence and work, so that for all citizens, not to be used to harass those who have inclined elsewhere. On the issue of Kalonzo's statement yesterday, I think Kalonzo has been misunderstood for long. And I think yesterday he decided to say, guys, yes, I'm ready to talk. But how do I talk when we have an agreement that is alive, that is existing, that has been breached? It was actually very informing that part of those who have breached the agreement are those who are now telling him, come to Azimio. And there are signatories and witnesses to the signing. So I think ODM has conned Kalonzo. They have mistreated and molested Wiper, and it has come. They never thought that this day would come, that they would be so desperate in need of Wiper. And they shouldn't insult Kalonzo, because it was never cast in stone that Kalonzo must join Azimio. ODM should let Kalonzo exercise his democratic right. If he joins Azimio, well and good. If he decides to go run alone, well and good. If he decides to join Kenya Kwanza team, well and good. But I think Kalonzo has given his facts. Let ODM now give their facts. Because let's argue based on, and I like the way Kalonzo did it, because he gave his statement and then he tabled the facts. So let ODM stop insulting Kalonzo. Let them now state the facts. This is what we agreed. This is what we did not do. And even an apology is good enough. They can say, okay, guys, we're sorry. We mistreated you. Here is your money. Here is Nini. And then they can reach an agreement. But I think also it says a lot about how would the country run should, by bad luck, ODM come into power. We saw what happened during the NDC the other day to Jimmy Wanjigi, that there were goons stationed outside under the command of the Secretary General of ODM, who was also even seemed to have been commanding the police and saying, "Toeni mtu hapa, and then I will remove my boys. I'll remove my boys." So, and it was actually very sad because they should have allowed Jimmy Wanjigi to go and present his case at the NDC. So you remember the famous story of the men in black? I think they just changed their uniform, and it is actually very sad that we still have violent ways of. So we still have political parties that think violence is a solution to a problem. We should not shed any blood. No Kenyan should be forced to move from his place of work or place of residence because of political competition. We made that commitment, and some of us who represent cosmopolitan constituencies and and are running in cosmopolitan counties, we know what it means to live harmoniously together. So with that is our running call, that we want every political party to be responsible. And I think we are going to push as UDA that before we run off to the next elections, we will have the principles of all political parties that are fielding candidates in whatever position to have a code of conduct signed and be held responsible for their parties to maintain peace within even themselves. We've seen within ODM, when it is a purely ODM affair, there's still violence. Even during Raila Odinga's birthday in Bomas of Kenya, there was some violence there. So we really don't understand why violence is always associated with ODM. So we want every political party leader to ensure, at whatever level, from the MCA to the top, ensure that the key call is that we must do these elections, we must have these campaigns in peace. We don't want to lose any life.
All right. Now that's it for you, Mheshimiwa. And then from what you've spoken, the people come out, Mudavadi has come out and said, okay, guys, we are all in NASA. We never had an agreement, so you guys had an agreement. There seems to be a foundation that Kenyan politics is laid on a foundation of deceit. Even when you look back in history, you would realize that some level of deception in how this country was formed. How do we fix the political deceit? Because I'm even seeing here Sam Tanui in Australia is asking us, what President Kenyatta meant yangu kume, Ruto kume. We're having again an agreement that is being given out, coming out alive, but you must leave, to affect the Kenyan politics in 2022. How do we fix the political deceit in it?
I think the best way to fix political deceit, the people who have the mandate to fix political deceit are the people of Kenya. And they will fix that deceit on the ballot on the 9th of August. Because all these statements that have been made are out there in the open. They are being repeated, they are being replayed. And there were commitments that were made verbally in public gatherings. And when somebody goes back on a word that he said unsolicited, and I keep repeating, then that tells you about the character of the person. But I insist, and I need this to go out clear, we in UDA, we and William Ruto included, we never ever at any one time slept and said we are banking on Uhuru Kenyatta's support. We know he's a human being. If he had supported William Ruto, well and good. Now that he's not supporting William Ruto,
still okay.
Well and good. Well and good.
Okay. So no hard feelings. Wamesema walieka kwa mapav, wameshapumua, imesonga, wame move on. You're moving on very quickly as well. Like us to look, Kwame, there's a question for you, Kwame. There's something you suggested here in terms of your short-term measures to restabilize the economy. And one of them was the reduction of expenditure. And I'm saying Kanji is a fellow economist as well. He's asking, the reduction in expenditure, is there any danger to the economy when the government reduces expenditure? What's the danger?
Okay, I didn't say reduction. I said to cap expenditure at the same levels. Okay. If you do a reduction, obviously it could it could tip off. But basically, what I meant was that we have had, as I mentioned earlier, if we start from President Kibaki from President Kibaki's time, the budget was the total public spending was hardly 1.6 trillion.
Okay.
And we've consistently spent an additional 300-400 billion every year in this administration's over time. So what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing that 1 trillion more of spending per year will do for us this year than it hasn't done before. So one of the things that you could do it as part of obviously reducing the exposure to debt is to simply cap the debt. To simply cap all spending this year at the rate at which you did last year. Now what that does is, first you stabilize spending as a share of GDP, and then the first thing that happens is you allow growth over time to buy space for the increase in budget. But at this time, in spending. But at this time, it's as if the spending is so ahead of revenues that all we are trying to do is basically just borrowing more money every year to pile it up. So that's the reason. To just simply stop this rush to spending an additional 500-600 billion every year. Whatever it is that we are chasing is clear. After 10 years of Jubilee, we haven't got there. Instead, we've actually just piled the debt and expanded the debt ceiling thrice. So it's telling us that whatever the trick might be, more spending is definitely not it.
All right, okay. I like what Caleb is saying. No Kenyans should be forced to leave their homes. As Kenyans, we should have the freedom to live and work wherever we want. Now, as an expert, from expert view, there's something I want us to help us with, and it has to be the sudden scramble and the battle for economic models in the country by the political class. We've heard about rural development from NASA. I don't know if the same as bottom up. We have bottom up from UDA. We have rural development from Raila Odinga and social protection. Before Mudavadi went to Kenya Kwanza, he had what we used to call the middle out economy. But now there seems to be a very serious interest in economic models. And people are saying that when I come in, this is what I'll do to turn around the situation that the country is in. Before I put Mheshimiwa on a defense, I'd want you to help us break down all these models that we have, that Kenyans have at their own disposal to choose from in the next few months. In 5 months, we'll be having an election. Kenyans almost have or don't have what to choose from. If they have, they're confused about them. If they don't, then they don't really understand what it's all about. Would you help us break down all these things and tell us what works and what doesn't? Where do we draw the line?
Okay, let's start with the fact that, to be fair to all political parties, they have not drawn a manifesto. At least I haven't seen a manifesto that says, look, this is what we mean when we say bottom up. This is what we mean when we say Biashara Mashinani or yes, and all that stuff. So they haven't. However, you ask an important question, Gerald, because today, early in the morning, President Biden of the US was giving a State of the Union address. State of the Nation address. State of the Union, yes. And in the State of the Union, all those things were mentioned, those phrases, their slogans. Middle out, bottom up, social protection, all appeared in his speech. So I'm not too sure if he's reading from us or we are reading from him. But all I'm trying to say is that these things are all not necessarily new.
Okay.
What I got the bottom-up model to be about, I'm not speaking for them, is the idea that the model that Jubilee administration in particular took was the belief that if you build stadiums, if you build dams, if you build big infrastructure roads, the SGR, then obviously
the money will come down.
Yes, the money will trickle down to other people. Okay. It obviously has not worked, even if the president still insists that he's constructed 10,000 kilometers of road or whatever number it is. We are here and people are asking, okay, how comes? There's no magic. All we had was more calls about corruption, what money disappeared at KEMSA and all these other places. Okay. So it's clear there's a need. And what I hear is people saying, maybe UD is saying, is that, look, we'll actually now try to focus on building the small enterprises from the bottom. Okay. So people who are actually running the real enterprises from the household levels and try to build them from up there. That's a different model as well. And if it's tried, we'll see whether it works. So if that's what they're saying, that's sensible. Because the idea that if you litter the country with huge skyscrapers and huge infrastructure is going to work will not. On this other side as well, there's social protection. And if I hear what the candidate for ODM says, one statement was that, look, we have recognized that government has been giving cash transfers, which is basically cash support to some families over time, whether it's the aged, families with vulnerable children, or those who have had families where they have some illnesses and some kind of vulnerability. We need to now expand this and make the money meaningful, because most of them is about 2,800 shillings and make it 6,000 shillings. Now, that too happens. In other places, obviously, cash supports and transfers are actually accepted as a mechanism for allowing people to determine their own needs. If people if you have, say, during that drought, somebody sitting in a part of Kenya and they do not have, their crops have failed, they're not able to find, or their animals have died, it's far better, instead of transferring 60 kilograms of maize, wheat, or rice all the way back there. It's usually better if you can give them the money and they determine their own priorities. Those two are available. I don't even think of them as actually necessarily in contradiction to each other, but that's basically some of the stuff that needs to be done. Now, building from the middle up is basically concentrating on a middle class, which is, again, a very Western concept, which is the middle class actually bears most of the burdens, where most of the population falls. So concentrating on people in the middle class, providing them with jobs, lower taxes, and all that. So all these so far, in my view, are slogans. They represent good thinking. They may have shortcomings here and there, but what to me they suggest is business as usual, right? Will no longer be acceptable to Kenyans. And that Kenyans are listening shows that, yes, people are prepared to actually see what distinguishes these models and what it is that we need to find out about them.
So in your opinion, your analysis, what works, what doesn't?
What works? I mean, and again, I'm not speaking about any of these
at
three models.
At the risk of sounding critical, yes.
For me, I think that one of the things that a new administration has to do is to come back and ask themselves, what does government do? And what does only government does, and what can government do best? And there are just a couple of things, to be honest. First, people's security, personal security. That's very, very clear. We cannot provide, not every household can provide themselves with the security that allows for public. So that's one. Two, infrastructure such as water, basically big waterworks and stuff like that. I don't think a government should be running a butchery, such as the Kenya Meat Commission. I don't think so. I don't think so. Whether you call it part of a bottom-up or whether you call it trickle-down, there's just things that government should be doing. The government of Kenya has done a fantastic job with education, can do much better, all those other things. So if those are the things you're talking about, fine. I also don't believe the government should be lending businesses money. With the exception of a crisis, no. If government wishes to support small enterprises, what government can do is provide a fund which is provided to the big banks, and the banks are actually asked to lend them over because they're able to do an analysis about whether my business plan is actually a good one. So to allow them to distribute it back. So government that goes back to the basics, security, providing some of the basic infrastructure, water and all that, sewage works. So I don't know how a government in Kenya is thinking about huge infrastructure and huge 8-lane highways, and only 40% of the houses in Nairobi, based on some work that I saw, are actually connected to a sewage line. I mean, that's disconnected thinking. So, in my view, a government in Kenya that goes back to the basics
Is that will work.
Is in my view what is the signal to me that they actually understand the problem they're solving.
As I put before I put Weshimiwa back on defense on their model, there's a question here. Now that we're here, what options do we have to create sustainable employment? Mind you, we have technology helping farms to have efficiency through lower wage bills. So what are our sustainable sources of employment going forward? I think that's a very interesting.
Well, it's an interesting one. And, you know, the challenge that we at the Institute of Economic Affairs will provide to all political parties with a platform, we'll analyze their platforms and actually score them by telling them, look, if we are sitting as students of economics, based on the platform by party ABC, this is what we rank them because of this, and that. But the challenge that I think they need to do is a broad-based economy. No economy can actually run on one sector, whether it's agriculture, whether it's IT, whether it's just transport. All economies require a broad-based economy. And building a broad-based economy means government allows private sector firms to do the investment. So government is not doing it for them. So how do you facilitate business? So it's clear. So for instance, if the to run a business in Nairobi, some people say that to run a bakery's business in Nairobi or a restaurant business in Nairobi, you require between 7 to 11 permits.
Yeah. Either.
That doesn't make sense under any law, anywhere. It doesn't make sense whether it's trickle down. It doesn't make sense. So the idea that you provide, so that's one. Two, you have a city of 3 million almost going to 4 million. I think by the time the next administration comes in and finishes its first term, Nairobi will probably be 4 million people. And you only have 40% of the households with water running in. Do you know what it means? We'll have concurrent questions of cholera and all those diseases. That'll happen. Nairobi has a serious problem with pylori. It has a serious problem with the typhoid on account of the fact that water is not so easily available. So some very clever people go and get water from certain places. They simply filter it and they feed it back to people. Basics. A government that does basics then allows every Kenyan, and no Kenyan ever sits back at home waiting for government to give them money. So if that Kenyan comes to a place to ask for a permit and he has to ask for a permit, wait for 20 days, I mean, as if what does his kids feed on? Obviously, that tells you that government is failing. So every time I see huge lines on a government queue, it's telling me that that's a government that's failing. Because you're making people waste their time on lines as opposed to wasting their time, spending their time doing the work that actually provides them with an income. Modest taxation. Caleb and I agreed today that it looks like for some of the foods, some of the fuels, in general, the government of Kenya has a huge appetite for just raising taxes every day. Of course, for spending in everything else. So you have to give modest taxes. Some taxes in this country make it impossible to run a business. So either you run a business without the permit, or the business cannot be run because the number of taxes and the number of permits that you have to put together. So it's stuff like that. I trust Kenyan heads, all 49 million of us, to know what we want. That if government just got out of our way, we will obey the laws, we will run the business that we run. No Kenyan in Caleb's constituency waits for government to tell him when to go and farm. They know it. They know that the rains come at this time. I need to do my plowing and all that. So nobody sitting in the Ministry of Agriculture can actually...
Sending an alarm.
Precisely. Can actually... so my view is trust people, but get out of their way. Make it easy for them. Permits are necessary, but you cannot ask one person running one business to spend a whole year getting 14 permits so they can run a bakery. That just doesn't make sense.
Okay. There's someone that made a comment and say that in Kenya, 60% of the businesses expire before their licenses. Like before you can renew the next license, your business has already collapsed. So maybe you take the licenses home for decoration as wallpapers. Now, you can speak, Mheshimiwa, on the bottom up, and after that, I think I'll get to the comments. Then I'll try and get some few calls as well, so that we can get to hear what the Kenyans are saying. But on the economic model that you're proposing on the bottom up, that you've spoken severally about it here, what is really in it? What is it about?
One of the things that, and I'm glad KWAME has touched on it, is the issue of double taxation for Kenyans. There are too many, we're too bureaucratic in terms of obtaining licenses to do business. And one of the things that we are discussing as UDA and part of our bottom-up economic model is a way of trying to cushion Kenyans from this pile and lineup of taxations. If you really want to open a bakery, like he says, you need several licenses from several institutions. Sometimes some of them are from the same county government, but different departments. That should be collapsed into one, and it should be faster. So as you say, a lot of businesses collapse after the first year because people don't know how much the taxation is involved. And once you start running the business, then every Tom, Dick, and Harry is walking in and saying, you haven't paid this license, you haven't paid this, you haven't paid this. And I think we need to look at that. We'd rather collect less. I'd rather we collect less, but have a more efficient, vibrant economy than collect more and suffocate businesses. So it is part of our model as our bottom-up model as UDA and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance now, because we've teamed up with ANC and Ford Kenya. And one of the key things that is very key to us is the issue of fertilizer prices. By next month, March, we're already in March already. Normally now within Uasin-Gishu County, by 15th of March, we start planting maize. The prices of fertilizer are going to rise. I would advise farmers to now purchase whatever they need. I've already purchased mine, but it's going to go up. And let nobody come and, of course, the crisis in Ukraine and Russia is going to worsen the situation. But we're already in a bad state anyway. So nobody should come and tell us tomorrow that it is because of Ukraine and Russia. No, we're already...
The same way we said it was a COVID.
Yeah, and even we should not even blame COVID. The biggest issue is this government has not taken agriculture seriously. The Minister for Agriculture has been a one-man show guy. He's a know-it-all fellow. He didn't take advice from the experts on what we needed. The government required, I think, at that time, to pump in 11 billion shillings to cushion the prices of fertilizer. Now, if the government was to come in, they would require 31 billion. And if they don't come in, they will require 32 billion to import maize. Okay. And all because of a decision of one person, because they think this fertilizer issue is something associated with some politician and it's going to benefit him or his people. So let's not take it seriously. Okay. So I think it's a very serious issue that we need to look at. Then of course I agree a lot with KWAME. Okay. And I think I need to engage him more, even when doing finalizing my manifesto for UG County, is wastage. There is so much wastage in government. Okay. I want to believe that government should not even be owning vehicles. Yeah, one of the biggest wastages is government owning vehicles. There are so many vehicles. This morning when I was coming here, I want to believe they are cabinet ministers with sirens blaring. 3 of them.
I think I know the black one.
Yeah,
I think I almost know the plates of this
pushing us off the road with the scurries, with the hands out of the vehicles, get off the road. And each one of them has 3 vehicles. And that is to escort one person. Okay. At what danger do our cabinet secretaries face? Who wants to, they should suffer with Kenyans in the traffic so that when they go and sit in cabinet, if they ever sit, I'm told the cabinet has not sat for the last 3 years, then they should be saying, hey, what are we going to do about this traffic? I was in traffic today for 1 hour. Okay. But since they have sirens to clear the road for them, then they have no time to discuss issues that affect Kenyans. So I think one of the key things that we're going to insist on in the UDA government is we're going to have to find a way of reducing
government assets.
Government assets some of them have to be liquidated. Because if I'm employed by government, it's easier for them to give me a car loan so that I even take care of that vehicle because it is mine. Okay. Eventually, when I finish the loan, it is my vehicle. So that we stop this, because the way government vehicles are driven, the way they are handled, you have, like in my constituency, there's a government vehicle that broke down as a gearbox. Gearbox is something that would cost maybe 100,000 shillings. But that is peanuts to government. But it has been lying for 4 years. And I'm sure they're going to sell it as stock. But the engine, which is the bigger part of the vehicle, is intact. It's brand new. But maybe somebody's aiming for let it depreciate, then he'll buy it at a throwaway price. So I think we need to look at wastage and then focus on this person down there. Let them feel. I'm happy that we passed a bill the other day in Parliament that was brought by the Honorable Member for Dagoretti on issues of our artists and what they have been paid being paid by the local the royalty companies and on the ringtones and their music and everything. I think that is a step in the right direction. That we use Parliament to push things that are people-friendly, let me say hustler-friendly, so that the common Mwananchi can feel appreciated. And I think going forward with the next Parliament, we look forward to those who will be in the next Parliament. We will be urging them to ensure that we legislate on issues that have direct benefit to the common Mwananchi.
Okay. All right, bunge iko wazi, nambari ni 0779-800-010, 0779-800-010, 0779-800-010. Naweza piga simu kuweza kuchangia mjadala wa leo. Bunge liko wazi, 0779-800-010. George Thuo anasema he didn't support the constitution. He doesn't believe in it. I think it was about mambo ya katiba. Cleveland Otieno, what can Honorable KOSITANY tell us about tackling corruption and unplanned projects that seem to put money in people's pockets? Okay, Barakli Manono, it will be politics. I think on the issues of it will still be politics. On the issues of governor being appointive. Gigs Oginga, when I support 100%, the issues of appointing governors. Katuri Samuel Gasheru, how then would you shield the governor from the MCA's haunting? As a question on the issues of governor. Matthew Kandie, Okay, all right. Abbas Njuguna, currently some governors are alleged to being milked by their party leaders to fund political campaigns and assure free tickets to vie. Okay. All right, Jambo, bunga la mwenye saidia simu pale. Kidogo tu just
First of all, yeah, really, let me talk about the debt ceiling.
Okay.
You know, the president has failed Kenyans. The parliament, I agree with Honorable Caleb Kositany, my governor, that the parliament has failed. Because now the parliament is now under the handshake capture.
Yeah.
It's either you support the president, what do we call whatever. Ama tanga. Luckily, let me say this. When it comes to Jubilee politics,
Okay.
Uhuru is assuming himself.
Okay.
Attacking the church. Why do you attack the church? The only organ that is speaking to go directly. Wataongea na Mungu peke yao. So Jubilee is dead.
Okay.
Now we are focusing on UDA. And it is very, very good that Uhuru has announced that he is a new Damu. So we shall deal with him as Uhuru, not as the president. You understand?
Okay.
As we come to Western Bishop politics, my governor there, okay, he has a good agenda for us. But then haonekani ground.
Haya, amesikia swali haonekani. Unajua baada ako na kazi zingine ya ubunge, labda hapo ndio ameshughulika kidogo, lakini atajitetea mwenyewe.
No, you know, you have 1 month to
ground inakuja.
And then pick my calls, mheshimiwa.
Yuko hapo, unaweza zungumza naye.
Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
I've been campaigning for you last night after mheshimiwa.
Very good, thank you.
I've been calling you and not to napata kazi. Asla.
Kabisa.
Haya, asante.
Thank you so much. Bunga la Mwananchi, jambo. Bunga la Mwananchi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, how are you?
Good, and you?
Salama sana. Naongea na nani?
Gideon Kiptui.
Leta habari.
Sasa. Niko live.
Uko live?
Sasa. On matters UDA and Kenya Kwanza. Yeah, we are fully supporting Kenya Kwanza, the strategies and the model which is being channeled by UDA.
Okay.
It's actually they have actually captured the mood of the Wananchi, what the Wananchi people need, everybody that because what we are seeing on the ground is people are now when it comes to reality on these matters, that we need to start with the people, the common Wananchi, so that we'll pump even the economy, because now the economy is crumbling down and so many things are going down, and we need to support from the grassroots. And now that the ideas that the team is coming up with is now it is live, and it is capturing the mood of so many people. Not the chest thumping and throwing tantrums and to other people. You see, when they come up with ideologies that will speak of the Mwananchi. Okay. What does that person need from the ground? And that is actually what we need. And I like Honorable KOSITANY, what is doing on the ground is and the politics of Kenya Kwanza now should not focus so much on maybe leadership will be the deputy president and so forth. They should now focus on uniting the coalition, uniting everyone and bringing people on board.
Okay.
Let those other guys talk of the MOUs and we know we cannot legislate honest.
Okay. You cannot legislate honesty. Okay, asante.
Yeah. We cannot. Let them struggle on their own, but we work on politics.
Okay. Asante. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a pleasure. All right. Kanje value addition or our technology and skill levels are still not competitive enough. How can we approach manufacturing from such a disadvantage? Is it the role of the private sector, or we just import low-cost products like we are doing now? How do we compete in manufacturing? I think there's a question on manufacturing for you, Kwame. You really need to pick that. There was something. Abbas Njuguna, I think I told something on Abbas Njuguna. Steve Barno, Caleb is the deal. Shida jakuja kana, I think Wishamuliza, Ayatajibu, Roskabugi. Parliamentarians are the most corrupt institutions in Kenya. Amesema parliament hapo ndio kuna shida kidogo. Langat Geoffrey, the next governor of Singishu County should think beyond its borders. When we talk about the airport, all the neighboring countries should be thought of to boost the economy of the county. Sports tourism should be top on the agenda to bring revenue and nurture talents. Okay, Clifford Otieno, I think I read the issues on the governorship. Naona hapa pia mheshimiwa muulizwa running mate wako, I think bado wakati sijui kama unahitaji kabla ya nomination ama baada. Some Tani says power comes from the people and they should not be locked out from the electing whoever they want to elect. Whether participation in the electing leaders is very important because whoever is elected through voting will be answerable to the people. Robi Tani is the real deal for us in Gishu County is that politician who is really approached and always available on the ground. Abraham Mayo, that is the right leadership was in Gishu County. Thank you. Sam Tanui ask Kenyara yangu 10 yako 10 tuko tumeshasema. Kenya Graphics tumeshimiwa question. There is a lot of calling of names, especially in politicians who have been there for a long time, and yet we don't know what they have done when in government. When a normal person goes to look for a job, he or she is asked for a CV, but it looks like for politicians, they matusi too. Okay. Kichwan, you know, my love, Caleb Kositany is candid and bold. He supported Jubilee with passion. He deserves to win UG gubernatorial seat. Okay. Amon Biwat, Honorable Kositany, what's your view on the outcome of Sagana 3 on UDA and Kenya? Okay. Let's Chibukize Mheshimiwa Kositany, do we have deep state from your point of view? Do we have deep state? Eco deep state. Okay. Kejap Kendi, good morning. Ask Mheshimiwa Kositany, what would farmers in this county do to afford the price of fertilizers in this season? I think actually it is the highest. This has to be the highest cost of fertilizer that we've had in a long time. On YouTube, let me check out what you have on YouTube as well. Freddie, and good morning. You're doing a good job. Thank you so much. Vision from the UK. I be talking. MPs did their role of oversight, legislation, and representation well. They can sort out a lot of issues. MPs stop worshipping party leaders and stop using CDF as the re-election scorecard. Okay. Carol Longit Caleb, quite mature argument, soundly all the best. Let's tone down progressively as we get closer. Okay. Atticus now from the UK as well. Hi Gerald, please ask Kwame to speak into the microphone. I think he had done that. Good morning from London, UK. Atticus from London, UK, thank you. Good morning, GB. Good morning to you. Atticus, cutting government spending is key. It will mean less borrowing. Okay. Vision again, also from the UK. The most important thing for the next government is job creation and reducing the debt. Based on the population of Kenya and the GDP of Kenya shillings 10 trillion, it indicates that Kenya is not productive enough. What work is not what any of the candidates are suggesting. What Kwame is saying will work. Okay. Parastato's colonial relics should be sold and money distributed to the counties. Okay. Income tax is immoral. Not even the wife has access to the account before husband who receives it. But somehow the state should. Okay. That's that. Kwame, as county, where do you borrow if we must? Do we borrow 1 domestically? 2, do we borrow multilaterally? 3, commercially, which is the most pragmatic option. Not we are elevated to lower middle income country. Okay. All right. I don't know if you have anything to respond to. Mheshimiwa Caleb, we start now. Tuanze na wewe.
Well, I think I have about 2 things to respond to. Okay. One is the issue of name calling and people insulting each other and acting in a very uncouth manner because of politics. Both the wananchi and the politicians are wrong. Because when you look at political gatherings, those who have been hurling the most insults are cheered most. They're cheered most. And some of them have committed very serious crimes. They are actually in court for very serious crimes, ranging from shooting others and doing other things. But they seem to be the darlings of the crowd. Okay. So you cannot just blame it on the politicians. The moment the Kenyans refuse such a person who has been hurling insults at others to speak at a political rally, then we'll know we will have matured in our politics. But so long as we are cheering them more than the sober leaders, then that way we are encouraging that the more you insult, the more popular you will become in the Kenyan politics. Okay. Somebody asked there about the outcome and the effects of Sagana 3 on UDA. I said this the other day in Parliament, and let me repeat it here for the record, that there should be another, and there will be another Sagana 4, Sagana 5, Sagana 6. But so long as the topic of discussion is William Ruto and not the real issues affecting Wananchi, then it has no effect. Okay. Because I expected the president to lay out issues that caused the rift between him and the deputy president, as he had said he was going to spill the beans. But the beans were there, but nobody spilled them. He actually didn't tell us. The president just went on like he was pleading. He has actually forgotten that he's the president of the Republic of Kenya. He's now pleading to Mount Kenya to support Raila Odinga. And I think it's actually, I would love to see the Uhuru Kenyatta I voted for. This one that is there, I think, is a clone of something else. It's not the Uhuru I voted for. It's not the Uhuru, my friend, who we used to discuss issues. He used to call me, and I used to call him, and we discuss issues. It's a different person. I'm actually traumatized when I see.
You need counseling.
And I don't know where my president my president lost it. Much as he wants Raila to succeed him, he can do it in a better way. Okay. But he's chosen to do it that way. Let's hold together as Kenyans. As I said earlier, the same intelligence we used, Kenyans who voted against Uhuru in 2002 voted for Kibaki in that 2002, voted for Kibaki in 2007, voted for Uhuru in 2013. Let Kenyans exercise that right to elect the leaders that they want. But there's also something very important that KWAME
Let me pull someone in for you. Just one last call to scare to kidogo.
Okay.
Bunga la mwenye Nchijambo. This is the last call, please. And next time, keep time.
This is Farid Faraj.
Okay, sawa Farid.
Habari ya leo.
Salama.
Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning, Farid. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. OWINO chona de baba.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very fine. So, KOSITANY.
Yes.
I have two concerns about Kenya Kwanza Alliance. What is happening in Nairobi? You've not found a clear structure that can govern Nairobi from Kenya Kwanza. If you see the other, if you go across the divide, they have already stipulated whoever they want as their governor, although they have not made it publicly. But there's a structure. You can see they are headed to Ngatia, they are headed to Pasaris, they are headed to Sifuna. That is in Nairobi. But on the other end, you are still struggling. Why can't you people make it easy for us as people who are supporting Kenya Kwanza so that you can get a clear structure so that when you are discussing things in the normal speech, you can say we are headed to this, so and so and so and so. Number two, why can't we approach Kalonzo because he's still on the trail land? We can approach him, come and add something to Kenya Kwanza to make it a better coalition. When he's in the coalition, we don't need to campaign. We will have taken this thing home. The rest of the money we can use it for other things. Because you see now he has close to 1.something million votes. If he comes with them to the ballot, we can brag around and say it is as good as done before the elections. Number three, KOSITANY. Your friend Buseki said he needs somebody who is akona muscle ya kutosha. In Wasingishu, we might lose that seat if we are not okay, if we are not organized. Because Buseki has been in the ground since 2017. There is nowhere where he has never gone, giving out his money, selling his agenda, doing everything possible to get that seat, either independent or any other party that he chooses to go with. But it is independent. And you know his political annihilation leans towards Azimio. However much he has not declared his position in Azimio, but you can see the way he's doing his politics, he is in Azimio. If we are not careful, we are going to lose that thing, and that is the home ground of His Excellency the Deputy President. So you have to up your game back it at home, ensure that the ground is okay, ensure that the UDA candidate who wins the nomination is as strong as possible to fight it on with Busekiro, else we shall see just in that task.
Sawa.
Otherwise, have a fantastic day.
Asante.
Rekebisheni hapo, itakuwa sawa.
Asante. Thank you, bro. I'll see you tomorrow on Diaspora Edition. Okay. Please proceed. Sorry
Okay.
for interrupting. All right, now next time uchunge time bwana. Ukichelewa siku nyingine utanyongwa nje. I just taken because you've called a number of times. Thank you. Asante.
Yes, I think I was saying that there's something that Kwame said about making public who are we paying for what, and making public those contracts. I want to assure Kwame that I'm going to Parliament after this. I'm going to draft a question today that, and you will help me how you want it worded, that we have a statement by the Minister of Cabinet Secretary Treasury to give us in Parliament a statement that will be read on the floor of the House of exactly what our debt is, who we owe, for what, for how long, and how much we are paying, and the payment plan and the payment schedule, and even show us the transactions that have been paid to who, because it's very important that as a country we know who we are paying.
Yes.
Maybe we're taking money from the left pocket and putting it in the right pocket, and saying we paid our debt. I mean, there have been incidences where we've been told there was some overpayment of some billions of shillings, and everybody all of a sudden was saying it's not my money, and such things. So I think it's very key that we engage. And I urge Kenyans, whenever they feel that there's anything that they need to be aired, or they feel that Parliament should do, they should use whatever avenue they can, even through public petitions. You know, a member of the public is allowed to write to the Speaker of the National Assembly and say, hey, I want information on ABCD. And it will be read on the floor of the House and directed to the relevant committee, and that member of the public will be called in to come and listen to his question being answered. So I think it is a very important thing that that should happen. But of course, as we said, we must work on the fertilizer prices. It is actually very, very, very serious. I foresee the price going to about 7,000 shillings per 50 kilogram bag, and a lot of farmers will not be able to afford. So we're going into a crisis, and it is piling up and compounding. As it is now, we need 31 billion shillings, as opposed to, if the Minister of Agriculture had listened, it would have been 11 billion. If we don't get it right now, next year we'll need 32 billion shillings to import food, not to subsidize fertilizer, to import food. And it's actually a crisis.
Okay. And I think you want to respond on, Kwame?
Yes.
I think you have a number of them on your table.
Yes, there's one on manufacturing. Yeah, I mean, I just participated last week at a meeting by the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, in which they issued, or rather published, what they call the Manufacturers Manifesto. So an agenda for manufacturing. I think they stated that they'll be having conversations with all political parties.
Okay.
I think it would be a good one, because it's a very fair report in terms of what they expect to do, or rather what they expect to participate in or to cooperate with an incoming administration to deliver. And they spoke about many of these things: public goods, lower taxation, to reduce the regulations, the levels of regulations, to make sure that government allows for foreign direct investment. So that's one thing that I'd recommend to the listeners to actually try and find. It's available on the Kenya Association of Manufacturers website. On the public debt, yes, the way to deal with public debt today is based on what the situation is now. So it's not possible for the government of Kenya to freeze borrowing right away, because one of the things that happens is, the problem is not just the amount of public debt. The problem is the tenure. In other words, when the payments are coming due. And so if the payments are coming due, say next month or next year, and there's insufficient money, then what government needs to do, and what it has committed to do, is to get what is called an extension. So what they do is that they buy, or rather get public debt from new debt or new money, and they use it to stretch the tenure of debt, so that they buy some space, because if you have to pay so much in a short time, it overwhelms. In terms of foreign and domestic, foreign debt and domestic debt all have advantages and disadvantages. So some foreign debt, especially commercial debt, I think the government of Kenya should avoid. Commercial debt should be avoided. But foreign debt, coming from multilateral partners, the big institutions, whether it's the international financial institutions, so we're talking here of the World Bank and the IMF, all of them tend to tailor debt to specific things. So that debt tends to be, most of it tends to be actually concessional. So it's very low interest rates, and it has very easy payment terms compared to what a commercial debt would be. Domestic debt is useful when government needs quick liquidity to solve. One of the things about domestic debt, however, is Kenyans don't understand that domestic debt actually has very high interest rates. So last year, in terms of interest, for every 100 shillings that government was paying in interest for public debt, which is both foreign and domestic, 80 shillings was going to domestic debt. So domestic debt has a very big burden in terms of the interest rates. I think in that, government could do much, much better, and I suspect the central bank could advise government to get much better rates for domestic debt, because domestic debt's interest rates, to be honest, at 10, 11%, that's far too high. And maybe that's one of the things to be fixed. But the main problem right now is for government to find an easy way of dealing with its debt distress, paying its obligations without violating or reneging on the payment of debts or defaulting on the debts that are already available. That's a very difficult financial management situation. It's not impossible, but it's one of the things that government needs to manage keenly.
All right. On the Daily Nation, Kenya puts 35 oil blocks up for sale. Okay. I don't know what happened to our Mahuta that went for tour. We saw roads going down there.
I have not followed, but I'll ask my colleagues from Turkana what happened.
It does not come back. All right. The country has 4 oil exploration basins in Lamu, Anza, Mandera, Rift Valley, and the proposed auction comes on the back delays of actualize its oil dream. Okay, we keep it going. That's on page 5. Raila to Kalonzo, we don't need you. We out storm. Better of wits and ferocious adliners. Kalonzo Musyoka attending the Azimio rally would have been an acquiescence of breach of the agreement we made. Mudavadi, it is unbelievable that our colleagues in NASA could go behind our backs to sign their own agreement. Nokwambua Waipa, what is the guarantee that whatever we will agree today will not be breached tomorrow? Okay, Professor Wakamutua, ODM, we are going to win the elections on August 9, whether Kalonzo joins us or not. Professor Kivuta Kibwana, Maungano Party, it's better for Kalonzo to go where he wants if he doesn't want to be in Azimio. Simiyu, DAP Kenya, if the secret agreement really exists, then Kalonzo betrayed the other members of NASA. That is that bind Azimio La Umoja leaders camp reacts with fury to a storm kicked up by Wiper boss who insisted yesterday that a secret 2017 pact bound the former Prime Minister to back him for top seed in August 2022. Today, Abolish Odinga camp is sending a task rejoinder to Mr. Musyoka. Board Azimio train or take a walk. Okay, Ruta tour cost 107 million. A national investigation shows the Deputy President and his 31-member entourage 14-day tour of the United States, the United Kingdom, and Qatar will cost the taxpayer about 107 million in air ticket accommodation and allowances. Cost business. MPs award Kenya Power shillings 10 billion tariff cushion. New development means that even though power bills will drop, Kenyans will still pay a heavy price through taxes to keep the utility going. I think we live in a very interesting country. So they say they're reducing prices, but they're giving them security. All right, that is on the Daily Nation. Gazette is here. On the People Daily, what really is Kalonzo up to? Penalties, reprieve for elblonies. Parents anxious as long holiday begins. Experts are urging guardians to let children rest, but keep a watchful eye on them and it's still discipline. Conditions, Wiper leader lays down terms for new coalition by reviving 2017 deal that stipulated Raila would support him in this year's elections. I think everybody's talking about that. Nothing much really in the papers. On the Star, Kalonzo U-turn puts Raila in a tight corner. Ministry of Kidnap Nairobi politician dumped in Othaya River. Very sad. 6 Mount Kenya County Stubborn Cancer Burden reveals the MOH. NY suspect Ben Gethi gets 5 years in jail for forgery. Okay, interesting times to be alive. And also some other guys who are found with Bangi, they've been given 50 years. 50 years. For Bangi only. Right. Your tackles of the day.
I think my tackle of the day, as I'm sure we're winding up.
Yes, we are going on.
Is we have had a chorus, and it is something that was agreed on by those who are anti-William Ruto, that let us try and tarnish his name and label him a corrupt leader, a thief, and everything. And It has come even from the highest in the land, saying tuwezi kuachia nchi mwizi.
Yes.
They keep saying that. But I think Kenyans are more intelligent than that. They have known that these are just attacks aimed at tarnishing the name of the most popular presidential candidate. We have very big questions to ask, and the Kenyans have always asked us. We need to know about the COVID billionaires.
Okay.
We need to know what this amorphous organization called NMS that is being funded heavily and doing many projects in Nairobi. The priority of Nairobi residents now, as was stated here earlier, is water, not paved and curb road walkways. We would have rather supplied water even to 3 households rather than come and pave the walkways in the city. That is actually having our priorities upside down. We need to know the truth about SGR. We need to know the exact costs and even the commissions that were paid. Who was paid and who are the beneficiaries of those commissions. There was a very serious allegation, and it was even in the papers, that the funds that were raised, you remember they set up a fundraising team to raise funds for COVID, apart from the government, and they said that those funds were channeled to some private account, and nobody seems to be talking about that. We also have the issues of the WikiLeaks. The WikiLeaks came and told us we have Pandora Papers. We have people who have money stashed abroad. We Kenyans need to know. And I think even going into the future, before we elect a president, we want them to declare where all their assets are and if they have any foreign accounts, so that we know. But I think key is a rallying call, and I said this in Parliament the other day. I want to urge also my fellow members of Parliament, and I will continue saying it, that let us debate in the House and put into consideration the issues that affect Kenyans. Let us not politicize every single matter that comes to the floor of the House just based on political inclination, because we're losing very important bills that will help both UDA and Azimio, but we lose them to political direction given by somebody that anything that comes from that side, however good, it should be thrown out. Like we actually had a proposal on the budget policy statement to reduce the amount funding that was given to the office of the president. I think they've been given about 80 billion, and we said remove 50 billion and let's put it to go and cushion the SMEs, so that the small and medium enterprise people, the manufacturers, and somebody asked him a question about manufacturing. Actually, we've learned through COVID that actually Kenyan can survive. We came up with so many innovations during COVID. Like
even this one is
a hand washing.
It's a COVID child.
You remember the hand washing Nini that was done in Jokali? You step and the water soap comes out from one. And that innovation needs to be improved with a little funding. And you see, I think we've learned a lot with COVID. So I think my rallying call is to call on the people of Uasin-Gishu to give me their vote as to be their governor. Members of all communities resident in Uasin-Gishu, I will serve you equally to the best of my ability. And we will do this work together. It will not be a single man's job. We will do it together to transform our county, make sure we are even exporters of produce and not just net importers. And we create jobs. Not really by creating jobs. We're not saying we are creating jobs to employ. We want to create jobs where people are self-employed, where people can fend for themselves. And I think we're in a good position to transform this country going forward. Thank you.
That is the environment. All right. Before you go, there's a question here about a road. I don't know if you'd want to pick it. I've seen it's more specific to where you come from. Ask Caleb what happened to Ziwa, Nangeli Road, Kerotet, Matunda Road.
Yes, that road is ongoing. It has been awarded to a contractor for tarmacking. We had an issue from 2017. Last year we got a new contractor who is on site, and I'm actually keen on it because it passes through my constituency, and at least he has started tarmacking the Tarbo side where where he started. So it's work in progress.
It's coming.
Yeah, at least the contractor is on site, so it's work in progress.
I'm also extending an invitation to you. We'll be having a gubernatorial debate in Uasin-Gishu on the 15th, on the 18th of March. It's on a Friday, 18th of March.
Friday, 18th of March, I'll be in Nairobi because my daughter gets married on the 19th. So I will not be there. I can't take the risk of being in Eldoret on Friday. So I'll be in Nairobi, but if I can join in through Zoom, I'd be glad to.
Sikuwezi kuna ndege Eldoret inatoka asubuhi 7.
Yes, Juzi tulikuwa na ndege and we were in the airport for 7 hours waiting
for delays.
Because there was
My invitation is with you. I hope, because I think you're having an NDC on 15th.
Yeah, we're having that, and I think also you need to change that because we'll be in Nairobi for the NDC on the 15th.
But now I'm talking about 18th.
Oh, you're talking
That's
about 18th.
what I
Okay, fine.
That's on 18th. Yes.
Maybe for my sake, you'll need to adjust that.
Okay, I'll look into that. Mheshimiwa Kwame Owino, nimeona mtu hapa honorable Kwame Owino. Jamaa nataka kukudanganya uombe hiki tu. Okay. Anasema when the demons want to conspire to finish, I tell you, my son, run for MCA. All right.
Okay, first, I think what we must take, yes, this is will be an active year because of elections. One of the things that, for me, the most representative body in Kenya still remains Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate. So whoever we elect or are elected to those offices need to have a different predisposition for somebody in the executive. And so when you hear members of Parliament speaking about we are defending our party, then you know that they are forgetting their oversight rule. Kenya's constitutional order requires that Parliament has a very strong check ability on what government is borrowing, how government is spending, and in general how the public sector behaves. This Parliament, of course, that is going to conclude its work could have done much, much better. Part of it obviously was the big tackles that after the last elections, well, it happened in 2013 as well. Parliamentarians came with the view that, look, we are defending our party, the president on one side and the others, all that. So that inability to work together, which I think even Caleb has alluded to, is something that reduces the effectiveness of parliament in this country. And I hope that as those who vote, remind them that our view is not that you be a sycophant within the parliamentary halls. Your view is to pass the laws, to have oversight, to make sure that our taxes reflect what we are able to pay, and that our businesses can thrive and government stays out of our way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for making time. I wish you all the very best in Western Gishu. And I hope we'll be able to have a better county. That's where I come from. I think it's also in my interest to ensure that we have good leadership going forward. Thank you so much for making time to come in. All the very best. The viewers, Kwame, asante sana. Thanks for always making time.
Thank you.
Although you appear like a lunar moon, but it's better than nothing. Thank you for the viewers who are coming in, the callers as well. Poleni kwa zile masimu pia ambazo nimekosa kuzichukua. Siku hizi rada ni hiyo. Nikikwambia simu ni 10 minutes. 10 minutes ukikosa basi mambo yako inaharibika. Thank you for tuning in this morning. The guys on YouTube and the diasporans, thank you for always staying awake at night to ensure that you join us for these conversations. Thank you for the comments that I was not able to read and those that I've read. I really appreciate. See you again tomorrow on the diaspora edition as is taken up by kina chairman Joel Arama, watu wa America. Nimeona pia mko na William Ruto pale, so we'll be getting some comments as well from diaspora. The diasporans take over their show tomorrow. I'll see you myself on Friday on Sheria Wiki with Daktari Ekuru Okot and another panel as we move forward. Patane ground pia tuweze kupiga siasa. Saturday tunaweza kuwa karibu na wewe tuweze kuzungumza kwenye bunge la mwenye nchi. Until then, take care and see you. This is a tackle and it ends now.